This week we are looking at lessons from Esther. You may know the story and think, well, what else can I learn? But the Word of God is so wonderful that even as I studied this, I believe I got a fresh revelation and new daily manna that I could apply to my own life. We start this well-known story in Esther chapter 1, where we see the beginnings of why Esther was called into power. So read with me in verse 4. It says, the celebration lasted 180 days, a tremendous display of the opulent wealth of his empire and the pomp and splendor of his majesty. Here we see King Xerxes is having a party for 180 days. I don't know about you, but one birthday party in one afternoon and I'm already exhausted. So for 180 days, there was food, there was wine, there was entertainment. And after this 180 days, the king decides to then throw a special party for all those that helped him serve over 180 days. In verse 5 it says, when it was all over, the king gave a banquet for all the people from the greatest to the least, who were in the fortress of Susa. It lasted for 7 days and was held in the courtyard of the palace garden. Drinks were served in gold goblets of many designs, and there was an abundance of royal wine, reflecting the king's generosity. By edict of the king, no limits were placed of drinking, for the king had instructed all his palace officials to serve each man as much as he wanted. Here we see this environment that is so toxic, where alcohol is just flowing freely. But then comes this demand from the king, and we see it in verse 11. To bring Queen Vashti to him with the royal crown on her head, he wanted the nobles and all the other men to gaze on her beauty, for she was a very beautiful woman. Isn't that so sad that out of all these parties, out of this 7 days of opulence and just overindulgence, he suddenly has this idea that he wants to bring his queen with the crown on her head, and that's all basically she's probably going to be wearing, so that the men can lust after her and see that she is a beautiful woman. And you know the story, that when she hears of the king's request, she refuses to come. I believe we are in a society at the moment where there is so much demand on women. Sexting is crazy at the moment with our teenagers, even in adults, where they have been demanded to look at bodies, where there's pornography that is rampant, where men have, and women, have actually taken the temple of God and their dignity and worth and made it something that everyone can see. And I really believe that it took everything within Vashti. So often we jump to the story of Esther, but today I want to just pause on Queen Vashti's bravery and her stand to say that my dignity and worth is worth more than the crown on my head. And she stood up against those men and decided she wasn't going to come. And in the end, it cost her her marriage, it cost her the kingdom, and I think she even was killed because of it, if you look at some of the scholars as what they say happened to her. But you know what? Her dignity and worth kept her from going to that low standard. And I think there's a cry for help in our society today, to remind them of their dignity and worth. And that's why I want to read and finish with this morning, Psalms 8, verse 3 to 5. When I look at the night sky and see the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars you set in place, what are we, mere mortals, that you should think about them? Human beings, that you should care for them. Yet you made them only a little lower than God and crowned them with glory and honor. Some translations even say with dignity. We need to understand as women, as men, we don't need the world system to define our worth, to define our position in society. that we have dignity and worth because we have a God that made us, who knows us, who cares for us, and we can go out with that beauty and honor that He has made. I love Proverbs 31 verse 25 where it says, "She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future." Maybe today you've made some poor choices in life. Maybe you've seen pictures that you knew you shouldn't have. Maybe you've looked at stuff that you shouldn't have either. I want to remind you, we have a God who sees you for your worth, that you are dignified, that you are worthy, and that you have a future and a hope in Him. Don't let society determine your worth today. So that is my first lesson today. Remember dignity and worth. And always remember, you are highly favored and deeply